that's a spotlight on small businesses. It's like, okay, when that PPP things happen, a lot of people were fraudulent. We know that. A lot of people, but there were some people that were totally legit, right?
Welcome to another episode of the Traffic Sales and Profit Show. I'm your host, Delmar Tyler. And if you are an entrepreneur looking for ways to grow your business and grow your wealth, you're in the right spot. And today we're having an important conversation because if you're thinking about business growth, what it's going to take a lot of you to get there are more people, more teams, right? More leaders. And I got one of my favorite people to talk about this today, Delmar Johnson. Delmar is the CEO and founder of HR Brain for Hire. And the very, very, very first HR consultant we ever hired in the business. What's up, Delmar?
What's up, Lamar? I'm happy to be here.
Hey, I'm happy to have you here too. Now, it's so much to talk about as we talk about building teams, right? And a lot of times when people talk about building teams, from the entrepreneur standpoint, they're not instantly thinking about HR, but you should be thinking about building teams about HR.
Yes.
So I want to make sure we get into that. But first, before we do, like, how did you even get to the point where we have you now in the seat where, you spoke at TSP a bunch of times around it. You've run your business now for how many years?
12 years. I just celebrated 12 years.
12 years. Congratulations, right?
You.
Almost a teenager.
Yeah, almost a teenager. Yes.
When you were being a teenager. But how did you get into growing this business over the last 12 years?
Oh, that's a good question. I tell you, it came out of the fact that when my life fell apart 12 years ago, I had to figure out how to survive, right? You get into survival mode when life starts lifing. So when my life fell apart, I had to figure out, okay, I don't know what just happened, but I need to figure out how I'm going to, take care of myself, get back into working and things of that nature. And jobs were not necessarily coming so frequently back then. So I had to figure out something else. And I actually had the conversation with myself. It's like, what is in my hand that I can do that can, bring in income for me? And I'm actually helping somebody else. So I had to put on my HR hat first. And I was on a contract job in Memphis when I had to move back to Memphis at that time. And a gentleman was walking out the door that I had hired as a contractor for them. And he came in as a supervisor. So I was just speaking to him as we was passing, right? Leaving. And he mentioned to me, he said, why don't you do this for other businesses who don't know what they're doing? I don't know why he said that to me. I had just hired him. He said, thank you for hiring me. That was great how you, brought me in on the company. But it just something triggered in me. It just triggered. I like, oh, that was interesting. Literally, Lamar, by the time I got to the house, back to the house, I had HR Brain for Hire. I don't know how that happened. But I had it like within that 24-hour period of going home. It's like, okay, I don't know what I'm going to do with this name, but I'm going to register it, register the domain, and then I figure it out later. And in 2011, in February 2011, I actually got my first client who I was strategically hunting on Facebook.
Wow. What does that mean? In case somebody needs to strategically hunt out in the audience.
I was strategically stalking. That's the word we was using at that time. Strategically stalking a young lady that fascinated me. And at that time, Tori Johnson was doing Spark and Hustle. I didn't get a chance to come to the first one, but I knew who Tori was because of career fairs that she had done. So I was connected that way. And this young lady was on there and she had got a spotlight on her website. I'm like, oh, okay. So I checked her out, see what she was doing. And I started following her and just commenting on her things that was real interesting to me. And I eventually reached out to her and she became not only my first client, but she became like a younger mentor because she's younger than me, a younger mentor and friend that just kind of gave me a chance to figure out how I could bring my corporate HR experience into the entrepreneur world and not scare a whole lot of people, that corporate speak. So I had to learn how to speak entrepreneur, but have that corporate brain about why it's so important to have HR at every phase of your business. Even I had to learn that. It's like, I was just trying to like tell people, okay, this is what you need. You need a team, you need this, you need that. But she gave me my first opportunity at a conference series that she was doing to speak about HR for entrepreneurs. I was the first person that I know of at that time who was doing that. So I didn't have, like a roadmap or blueprint or anything to follow. And I had nobody to ask about it either. I'll figure it out along the way. And she gave me that first shot at a conference talking about HR for entrepreneurs. And I was wondering why nobody else was doing it.
Now, you just talked about the fact that at every phase of entrepreneurship, we should be thinking about, teams and leadership, HR, stuff like that. I want to go a little bit deeper in that. So you mean to tell me, even when we first start, when we like a baby business, we should be thinking about this?
Yes. So, we got a chance to talk about that at TSP Game Plan, the three phases, as I call it, or the three stages. And it's really start, grow, and expand, right? If you just want to keep it simple like that. But even in the startup phase, when you do your business plan, right? You do your business plan, you have your financial part, you have your marketing part, you have who your customer is going to be, how you're going to do customer service. But a lot of times people leave out the HR part, the people part, because they're the ones that are going to help you grow your business, right? So it's like, why don't you think about who you want on your team? Even if you have no money to hire yet, you don't know how you're going to hire, you don't know who's going to be on your team, but let your imagination run wild with you. It's like, who would I want on my team? Say a year from now, you just started. A year from now, who does that look like? Oh, what will that look like? What does that team look like? You being at the head, of course, of that organizational chart, right?
Yep.
But then the other parts is you, and you. Okay, so what can you do in the next 12 months to make it you and maybe a couple other people? But you won't know what that is until you plan it, until you actually visualize what your org chart could look like a year from now if you're just starting like today. If you're just starting today, okay, look 12 months out. You want maybe a VA and a salesperson. Okay, well, how are you going to get those? How are you going to set up for those positions? Write a job description, write a job profile, write an avatar, and put it down on paper and see what it looks like that way, and then begin to pursue those steps that'll take you toward that. So really, HR plays a part in every phase of your business, even when you don't have a budget. It's like, that's when it's on paper. When you don't have a budget, it's on paper.
Yeah.
When you begin to have a budget and you get to the growth phase, then it's like, oh, okay, I got a budget to hire a few more people. All right. But I'm glad I prepared in startup phase, because I know what I need in growth phase.
You already know where to go. You're not trying to, once you're in, you need it. You're not trying to figure out.
Exactly.
Like, number one question I get all the time is like, who should I hire next? I'm like, I don't know.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? Like, I don't know enough about your business. I don't know about your strengths.
Exactly.
I don't know about where the gaps are.
Exactly. So as you grow from start to grow to expand, obviously it expand. You're a lot more seasoned. You've probably been in business 5 to 8 years or maybe longer. So you've been through those hurdles that the startup and the growth phase have gone through. But the expand phase, you just may have a different kind of hurdle. You have maybe more employment laws that apply to your business because of the size of it. You may have more things that you need to necessarily lock in, so it won't trigger an audit. So the Department of Labor people won't be looking out for your small business, because right now there's a spotlight on small businesses. It's like, okay, when that PPP things happen, a lot of people were fraudulent. We know that. A lot of people, but there were some people that were totally legit, right? They're going there, but the spotlight is on all the small businesses. It's like, okay, you did it right, you didn't do it right, so we need you to pay that money back. And what things did you have in place that even qualify for you to even apply for the PPP? So I know they was in Atlanta area here for like 7 months. I don't know if they still here or not, but they was cracking down on small businesses like that. So the more you have those kind of things in place and understand what you need for your team, what you need for a budget to recruit, and all those kind of things, the better you're going to be. But you have to start at the beginning and not in the middle or the end.
Oh, I love that. Setting it up. As you were saying that, it reminded me of me and Ronnie. We went to, we were in a mastermind with Infusionsoft company. And in that mastermind was the first time somebody had to actually map out our org chart.
Oh, yeah.
They gave us some little stickies and say, hey, put for every position, every role, right? Even if you're doing it, put it out and lay it out. And for one, that was the first time we had saw, as a small business, kind of like mom and pop shop, how many jobs we were actually doing. Because a lot of times you start out, you're just doing all the things, but you really not realizing, like, hey, all the things, like literally like 14, 15 different positions, right? So but like you said, like visually seeing it is like a wake up to like, whoa, this is like a lot of stuff that I'm carrying all on my own. But then, like you said, it probably was not soon after that once we saw it and we visualized it, then we can start to create a strategy of, hey, you know what? Well, these ones we got to get out of quick, because either they're not moving, we the bottleneck for it, or we're not good at it, like whatever it may be, and we were able to start creating that plan from there.
Exactly, because our org charts evolve, right? It evolved at a start.
Definitely so.
As a startup, you don't have at a startup what somebody like you're running have that's been in business for 10 plus years. Our org charts look completely different.
Correct.
So an org chart has to be developed the whole time. So it actually gives you a visual of the people that you desire that you want in your business. And then the ones that you probably need to start with now, which is usually just 1 or 2 people. It's not a lot of people that you're going to need at start because you're still trying to figure it out. Then when you get to grow, you may have a couple of more people. It's like, okay, now, you've been in business 3 to 5 years. You feel good about some things. You want to lock some things in. And then you don't want to, you don't want to just stay on contractors either. We may get to that. You don't want to
get to it. We get to it now. It look like you cooking up something. Like you got some thoughts in your mind.
Exactly. So you don't want to just stay on contractors and you're in business, I don't know, let's say 5+ years, because you have to get to that point. But say 6+ years. You ought to have some employees in your business by the time before you get to 10 years. You ought to have some employees in your business before probably between 6th and 7th year is probably good because you got that 5-year base under you.
Yeah.
You've worked out some kinks. You've worked out, it's like, oh no, that's not the kind of people that, we want on our employee, or that's not the kind of position that will actually move us further along. So by the time you get to the 6 to 10 year mark, you really got your stride in, you should have some employees. Everybody doesn't have to be an employee even at that point, because there's certain things that will probably not ever be an employee, like a graphic designer. Graphic designers, they
hold up, I got a graphic designer. He might watch this. He gonna be like, hold up. He literally right behind. Hold up. Can he get down there?
Well, listen, if a graphic designer though is being paid well, stick where you are.
Okay, there we go. There we go.
Let me clean that up. Let me clean that up. Stick where you are. But a lot of times when people are in that growth phase, in that growing phase, figuring out phase between 1 to 5 years, they have contractors.
Yeah.
We all know that.
Yep.
They have contractors. But by the time you get to 6 to 10 years, you really ought to have a mixture. Some can be contractors, and just some are going to stay contractors too. But those key elements and key people that you need in your business need to become employees.
And that's good, because just recently I had a conversation with a growing business, and that's what I was saying. And they were like pretty much all contractors. And I was saying at a certain point, you got to get people that are on board with the mission full time.
Yes.
And not like, hey, I'm on board with your mission, 10% of the time, and then I'm on board with 9 other people mission like 10% of the time too, and they come back to you like, all right, what we doing again?
Yeah.
But it's like got to be what they live and breathe, and what they are not just doing but passionate about, right? Trying to get people that's passionate about that mission, and everybody saying, hey, this is the thing, we want to all go conquer it and do it together.
Definitely, because
that's hard with 1099s and contractors.
That's very hard with 1099s, because if you have a visionary, like you're running our visionaries, it's like, and your team probably knows what you're going to be doing for the next 12 months, for the next 2 to 3 years, right? Because you're projecting out what it is that you want TSP to look like, right? So it's important that you have those kind of people that are going to be dedicated, at least for a length of time. Nobody is staying in businesses 10, 20 years as an employee anymore. Okay. Especially now, if you're on the corporate side, there can be a lot of turnover, but someone who's dedicated for a length of time that can actually be valuable to your team, you want to have them on there as W-2s. And then when it's time for them to transition, they have that solid foundation. It's like, hey, I worked with TSP and Lamar and Ronnie for 3 years or 5 years. I feel good, about what I did there, but it's now for me to take my career, to another level or to another industry or whatever it is. So they've been groomed as better employees under your employee. But you can't do that with contractors, because they're going to slice up their time. Like you said, 10% over here and 10% over here and 20% to this person or whatever. But you have to get to a point where you have employees on your staff that grow with you, and then it's also being poured in for them to be developed as employees too.
In that part. Guess what? If you enjoyed the last few minutes of this episode of the TSP Show, you gotta watch the full thing. But it's only available on The Convo. You can register today totally free at theconvo.tv, or scroll down below for a listing of all of your favorite streaming apps where you can watch it today.